Hello everyone, and welcome. It's a very cool day today, and I hope you brought your coats. It's going to be even cooler now with our distinguished panel. Very interesting people. I had the pleasure of talking to them before. We got ready a bit, and then Yossi told me that he plays the piano, and we got a nice surprise, but instead of talking, he's playing in the piano. So who in the audience knows what AI is? Okay, can you come on stage and no. But seriously, is anyone scared of AI? Think that AI is going to control the world? Doomsday scenario? Anyone? I do. So it does. Okay, perfect. So today we're going to talk a lot about what's AI and how AI is going to impact our life in different variations and different topics. And then at the end, if you'll be nice and quiet, we'll also ask the really smart people that are in the panel, and I'll be excused because I'm not in the panel, I'm actually just moderating. The smart people here, we'll ask them what's the next big thing. And so for the startups, founders, and investors, that will be a great opportunity for you guys. So let's start, everyone, if you can maybe just introduce yourself and say what's your relationship with AI. Okay, Mario, do you want to start? You're the furthest away. I hope I didn't scare you off.
Okay.
Yossi already played in the piano for me, so I'm not going to give him trouble now.
Good. Hi, good afternoon. I am Mariano De Beer. I am the Chief Commercial Officer of Telefonica. For who that doesn't know who Telefonica is, we are one of the largest telecom companies in the world, 350 million customers. And the relationship with AI is telecom companies are one of the organizations that have the most data about their customers. And actually, the ownership of that data is our customers' ownership. So our relationship, my relationship with AI in this point, is that if we want to change the way that the telecom company is going to be for the future, we need to use that data wisely. We need to understand how we can help you organize your life, and by making you organize your life, you'll be happier, you make more of your life, and at the same time, you stay with us and you make us make more money as well.
Perfect. You want to go?
My name is Arkady. I run Yandex, one of co-founders, and my experience with AI dates back almost 30 years ago. My PhD was in what would be called AI today. Then more than 20 years ago, we launched Search, which has become the first real big data application. The first application which really used big data 20 years ago. And now so that's why we were called 10 years later a Google of Russia. And now we are called the Uber of Russia, the Spotify of Russia, the Alibaba of Russia, and many other names. That's because we run a lot of applications based on AI, first of all. And my most recent experience with AI was probably opening a new school of data analysis with Tel Aviv University here. And we hope to start in October.
Hi, my name's Jack Kreindler. I've been a doctor for 20 years. I've been a geek for 30 years. When I was training in medical school, I was lucky enough to work for a guy called Douglas Adams, who wrote The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which some of you might have heard of. And so I was actually responsible for coding and designing the graphical user interface of the first sort of wiki, really, which was bought by the BBC and shelved effectively. But my relationship with AI is that I realized back then in 1999, 1998, that the world of medicine, the profession I was training in, was going to be dramatically changed by information technology, but moreover, the ability to compute that information and to help doctors make better, earlier decisions. And I've spent the last 20 years in a parallel career between medicine and basically human-computer interface to kind of make medicine less stupid and make artificial intelligence more human. So I work at the interface between the medical profession and artificial intelligence.
Hi, my name is Yossi Matthias, and I'm working at Google. I'm working on developing technologies for search and AI research and a lot of the intersection in between. And also heading a site here in Israel that we started some 12 years ago. We're now over 800 engineers. Many of them are working on search and AI research and other areas such as cloud and etc. Now, AI has been something that personally I've been dealing with. Probably my project as a student was actually a machine learning program that could write a game that was beating me and everybody else who tried it over a few days. So even then it was pretty powerful. But obviously hardly as powerful as what we see today. Over the years, I worked a lot on what people called big data and the like. Now, AI today is changing everything. AI is really an inflection point and going to accelerate. It's touching every aspect of technology and beyond. And I think these are amazing opportunities out here. And you know, at Google, we certainly consider AI to be a game changer. I can think a parallel about how mobile world changed the world 10 years ago. AI, in a way, is going to have even more dramatic effect looking forward. And we're focusing a lot of aspects of AI in every aspect of life.
Hello, my name is Luc Breton. I'm in charge of the Techno Center at Orange. Techno Center is the factory for new products and services for the group. And the other activity I'm in charge of is the Orange Fab Network. It's a network of 15 accelerators of startups all around the world on 4 continents, in the US, in Asia, Africa, Middle East, and Europe. About AI, it's really impacting all the processes internally and externally at Orange. And it's really at the heart of the household battle. I think it's a strategic battle. And the ability for the end customer to pilot its home, not only the TV, the entertainment, the smart home, but also the communication services, and tomorrow probably the bank services, because as you probably know, Orange has become a bank also. We use AI in the customer relationship. At Orange Bank, for example, at the beginning, AI represents 40% of the automated customer relationship for simple requests. And after 5 months, it has been able to handle more than 80% of the requests. So it was very interesting. And last example, but not the least, we developed an Orange bot platform, which is a self-service website, and the SMBs or the big account could do their own bot, and they build it very simply with bricks, without any technical skills, and they can deploy their bot by themselves. So it's definitely everywhere in our business.
So I think that's perfect. And by the way, you said that operators are at the sides. Then you have the 2 search engines
at the edge,
side, and then the middle is the doctor that sits over there. So I mean, in case somebody injured in the fight, you're gonna you're okay. You know, he's a real doctor. So in case I get a heart attack. But I was interested about one thing that you all mentioned is data, and we know data is really important for AI. What's the limitations that we have today for that data? Is it a problem? You can just pick up a microphone or yell at everyone. It can work.
Yes, there is limitations, and I would say for large corporations, the normalization of data across geographies, across companies, it's one of the main roadblocks today to run algorithms and to give solutions to our customers. We have spent 2 years normalizing all the data. We had 17 different countries where we operate, different legacy systems.
Just a second, because I understand what normalizing data is. I'm sure that half of the audience didn't understand what normalizing the data is.
Just to give you an example, how we interpret a minute, a mobile or a gigabyte. A gigabyte, the way that we store that you have consumed a gigabyte in Spain was different than the way that we store it in Brazil. So when we want to run algorithms, because we don't define what is a consumption of a gigabyte, then we cannot run it for the whole company.
But it's not the meaning of AI to kind of go and swim through these things and understand what's a giga, what's not a giga. Is not the case?
At least today, we had to have that data normalized to run it. Now, when we have this data normalized, and yes, there are some aspects where we can go out and look for data that is unstructured, but the main data that is structured, then we can launch like we did. For example, the first what we call Aura, which is a cognitive engine. It's Telefónica's way to communicate with customers in a natural voice, where you can talk to the network on real time. Without having that data normalized, we couldn't talk to the network in real time. And we are now running hundreds of thousands of transactions with customers on Aura. There is one thing that, in terms of where AI is taking us, I would say, wherever there is a choice, wherever the consumer has a choice, there is room for AI. So the possibilities are immense.
But let's talk maybe on options where a consumer doesn't have a choice. Maybe Luke, do you want to comment? You can grab a mic here. Maybe you can say, for example, I'm calling customer service, or I'm using one of the chatbots. I don't have an option. I have to engage with an AI machine, pretty much.
Yeah, at the beginning at least, but after a while, when you ask a question or a request that is too complicated for the bot, you ensure an handover to an agent that is bright and can handle complex requests. So that's very interesting. And at Orange Bank, as I mentioned it, we now are able to automate more than 80% of all the requests 24 hours a day, so that's amazing. And we teach the bot during 5 months, and now it's really effective. And then we make a handover to a people, a technician, a specialist technician in a range, or a after-sales service specialist. And he got all the history, all the context of the conversation, so that you don't have to begin from zero your conversation. That's completely exhausting to call at a hotline. I think we all there have this experience.
So you also mentioned before, when you introduced the topic, you said that anyone can develop on your platform.
Exactly.
Right?
So
right. So and again, I think that this is a good point, but. Is this something that you think that it's going to go and propagate into the industry?
I will take the example of the retiree industry, retiree insurance in France, CNAV. They developed by their own their bot through the platform, and they deploy it. And week 1, from 0 to 1 million requests. And the requests were made by retiree people, so no geek at all. It's amazing, 1 million. And the guys, they explained me the return on investment is completely obvious in that case. So that's a good example. 1 million requests, week 1 for retiree people.
I want to focus on the topic, not the numbers. I want to focus just a second. I want to focus at the API, because basically what you're doing, you're competing with Google, right? You're competing with Yandex, because they're providing these services as a platform. You want to comment why your customers are developing their own mechanisms?
So I think I want to tie to your two questions together. You asked earlier about data, and now you asked about platform. I think they're both related, even though, of course, separate. So first about platform, I think that one of the revolutions of AI is really enabled by the platform, by the open platforms, by the APIs, by the cloud, by the ability for everybody So I was visiting a couple of years ago Ghana, and I spoke with students, and they have a relatively, their ecosystem is not quite like what we see here, but the beauty is that every student there could tackle any difficult and important problem using essentially the same power of AI, machine learning, APIs for voice recognition, for image recognition that we do to some extent on some of our products. And that's the beauty of these platforms, the fact that you can actually use the cloud, you can use the APIs. So, for example, one of the technologies I'm most excited about in AI is the conversational technology, the fact that you can actually have using voice recognition and text-to-speech capabilities and then also to have interaction conversational technology. We're investing a lot in that broadly and also in Israel on what we call the assistant. And for example, just recently we released some of these APIs on cloud. And on the assistant, you can also have use something called actions on Google, where developers can actually connect to APIs and develop their own applications. Now, going back to the questions of data. So, of course, the power of AI quite often is because of data. The reason why you can search photos about dogs in sunset and get photos which are pretty awesome because they are quite accurate. Is because, of course, it was trained of a lot of data. Now, the beauty is that in many cases, you can have models which are available for everybody to use, again, based on the cloud. Now, when you're going to tie up your personal application, suppose you're a small startup, you're trying to solve a new problem, then in many cases, you need to develop your own models for the particular applications that you have in mind. And that's why it's extremely important to be able to bootstrap very quickly, to develop your first kind of prototype, to use whatever API you can get, to use whatever cloud technologies you can get, and then to start actually getting the right data for your own personal application, then using some other machine learning technologies to build your own models. So I would say this is becoming kind of an ecosystem where you're using a lot of the generic tools and generic platforms and API for whatever technologies which are there. And then sometimes some of the startups probably are going to do just fine just using that. Some of them are going to need to get their own kind of AI technology into that. But it's going to be a hybrid situation. So I think this combination of APIs, cloud, data models, machine learning models, which are already available, TensorFlow is open source and whatnot, and similarly there are some other offerings, of course, out there for technology. I think they are part of what we are going to see. So if you look back 10 years ago or a few years ago and say Play Store, and how quickly, once you you put out the platform, you see millions of applications out there based on whatever is there. I think that we're starting to see explosion, and we're going to see this exponential growth of all these utilities. Some of them are going to be specific, some of them are going to be put back for others to be used as well.
First of all, thank you. I think that it was enlightening to understand the perspective behind the technology. On the other hand, when somebody actually develops an application, it's very narrow. So AI doesn't have the broader intelligence we all thought it will have today. Do you think it's something that's going to happen soon?
Yeah, so there's the general question about, for those of you less familiar, there's a so-called artificial general intelligence. Can we just let something learn everything on their own? Obviously, there are some steps in this direction when you look at more constrained domains such as games. So AlphaGo Zero is an example. That's a computer game that learned to play the game of Go, which is it's more complex than chess in terms of its strategy. And it managed to train itself to learn it just by experimentation.
I want to be the devil advocate here. I'm sorry,
if I can just complete this, it's important. Even though this worked for the game, for getting general intelligence broadly in life, we're very far from that. So we're still in very specific narrow areas, except that what we see is those areas are constantly increasing, and we see many more of them going on. So we see more and more areas, but we're very far from the intelligence of a 4-year-old child, for example.
So the reason I wanted to budge in and interfere, although it's very interesting and I can probably listen to that for hours, but the main point when we look at AI or the Go game, it's actually not true that the computer learned it by itself. It had a team of 50 people behind it, right? So yes, it's one person playing against 50 engineers on the other side that developing the game. It's not necessarily a fair fight. So I don't know if maybe Arkady, you want to comment about that, or?
Well, on data, there are two different views on data. One is the customer view on data, and another is the corporate company view on data. As customers and as humans, we own a lot of data, and these days we are all paranoid about we're giving up our data to other companies, to all these big platforms. What's going to happen? First of all, nothing new happens. Each of us has data, has had data since the birth, and we transmit our data constantly. Like now we're sitting on the stage. It's our data. This is a fact which we transmit. Or we wear jeans.
Well, there are TV cameras and cell phones here, so yeah, I'm sure that.
No, even without cell phones, we transmit a lot of data. We travel in the city, and somebody can look out of the window and see that somebody goes on the street. So we transmit our data. Yes, now it's much with all these cell phones and pocket devices, it's much more data which we transmit, but it's not so much new. So I wouldn't be so much paranoid as a consumer about it. Nothing new happens. In larger scale, but nothing new. As a company, on opposite, the companies and platforms like us, we started collecting a lot of data, and internally we need to treat this data as we would treat a very precious but very dangerous material, a mercury or uranium. We collect something, and we need to be very cautious in handling this. There should be very strict rules who has access in the company.
So again, I know why data is dangerous, but just in order to elaborate, the audience, maybe some of them do not know why losing your data is dangerous. I mean, I don't do anything illegal. I have no problems. Why losing my data is a danger, or poses any danger?
Again, it's not a danger, but like anything newly invented could be used for good and for bad.
So I'm trying to understand what are the bad use cases, okay?
For example, I don't know, when you provide access to authorities, you need to be very cautious and very strict on rules, how it should happen. You should not provide it to everyone freely. The data must be protected. That's for sure. At the same time, of course, you need to share it with different applications.
I think the answer to your question is a company able to answer the question, what are all the journeys of my data, the personal data I give to you and you can use? Is that possible, that you describe me all the path, all the use of the data and the third parties you transmit this data? So, and I think it's really terrible today because it's quite impossible for a lot of companies to answer this question. That's why GDPR in Europe is so important. So personal data and the way it is used by company will become a very hot topic in the coming months. It's already the case with Analytica and so on. But I think AI should be very cautious in the way they use the data, and especially the personal data.
If I can just add here, obviously one of the biggest, obviously user data, privacy of user data is utmost important always. If I look at the AI domain, one of the most exciting areas in AI, of course, is health, where it's quite clear that today with AI technology, we can certainly save lives, many lives. In order to have advancements there, there's opportunity, of course, to build whatever models which are there on medical data, and here the user privacy is even more important. So it's very important for the industry to figure out ways to make advancements in the space, while obviously keeping user privacy to an utmost importance here.
So first of all, Jack was really smiling when you talked about health because hey, I have something to say now. Yeah, guys, I want to talk now. So that's perfect. Before we move to you, maybe you'll see. Maybe the hard question is, most of your competitors have AI medical platform. or medical use cases. Are you planning to launch AI dedicated? Again, we all understand that there is different verticals, and that's not completely that the AI needs to be driven to a specific domain or a specific vertical or a specific use case.
So yeah, we have a lot of effort on AI research for medical domain, including also in Israel, by the way. Part of the research, by the way, is technologies to enable keep medical data private while doing advancing machine learning on that. But one example I would like to give, which I think is pretty inspiring, is on a condition called diabetic retinopathy, which is essentially a condition where everybody, hundreds of millions of people in the world are at danger of losing their eyesight because of that. And as it turns out, you can use the images of the retina to analyze and identify the condition and then give treatment that can actually save people's sight. And the problem is that there's a shortage of over 100,000 doctors in the world to actually do this screening. And it turns out that you can use machine learning models to actually do work which is in par with what the experts are doing. And now there's actually work underway to use some of that software to help out and save the sight of people that otherwise would go blind, which is amazing. Now, as the research was done on that condition, there was an not accidental, but there was a follow-up research that showed that you can actually even learn from the retina some heart conditions that nobody even knew that you could, which is pretty amazing.
Smiling here, so I think
so these are tiny examples. I mean, not tiny. These are big example for the one instant out of so many instances that we are going to be able to use AI to save lives or to improve lives of many people in the world.
Yeah, first of all, improve the life, just air conditioning, or maybe finding making it cooler. Let's talk about AI in medical usages, because this is definitely, I think, one of the biggest buzzwords. You know, as an investor, I've done one investment in a company doing brain hemorrhage detection. But this as I dove into this field, I saw so many companies and so many verticals and so many ideas. Maybe you want to share a little bit of your vision.
Yeah, I mean, generally because medicine's old and mainly powered by humans mostly, it has lagged behind the rest of the world in terms of what it does with its data. You know, the NHS is the largest single payer provider network of any significant genetic diversity in the world. And we are bloody awful at doing anything with our data. And AI, but certain areas, if you want to call it analytics, if you really, really want to call it AI, which for me is a misnomer, but if you want to call it like computer vision, there are some absolutely fantastic things going on today in research projects and in companies around the world that are making a difference. Google's mentioned its thing with macular degeneration, that thing with blindness. There's another thing that I started a while back that instead of you sticking 97% of the time, if you see something in your CT lung scan, if you're a smoker, it turns out that only a very, very small percentage of the time it turns out to be cancer. The cost in the US of unnecessarily sticking big needles in things that you see on a CT scan is $4 billion a year, but it's not only that, people die, people get infections, people, you know, it's bad. We do a lot of things badly that computer vision, AI, analytics can help with. But the thing is that all the people that are talking about this and talking about what they can do with our data as patients are all commercial organizations who wrap around this kind of thing, we can save lives, which is great, but the reality is that there is a massive trust gap. So you talk about data governance, data provenance, who owns it, who gets rewarded for donating their data, who sees the benefit for giving their data up. And that's the challenge that I've got. You know, it's not so much that we are lacking the data, we've got them. We've got hundreds of thousands, millions of CT scans, MRI scans, blood results. Medial in Israel is a great example. Some people in the audience here, I know they're working on billions and billions of blood results to be able to early detect if your kidney's going to fail in hospital. We've got the technology, we've got the data. What we haven't worked out is how do we use AI in a way that is manifestly beneficial to the people donating the data so they feel comfortable about giving it. We are really not recognizing that problem. We say, well, we can say.
So I'm trying to make it maybe coherent to the entire audience, but one of the things you're saying is, one, data is there, which, you know, I want to dispute a bit about that, but I don't want to get into argument at the moment. But the second part is the ability to use the data. So I think that today the ability to use the data, and we talked about at the beginning, normalizing the data, it's a hard issue and task that we need to address today. And then how you protect the privacy. Again, medical records are sensitive.
It's even more about protecting the privacy. How do you generate rewards for the people that are giving their data? Okay, so in the UK...
But why do you need to reward someone who's giving his data?
Well, because there is an issue which is very, very obvious, and I don't know whether it's like in Israel or different countries, but a lot of people are extremely paranoid about what commerce is going to do with their data. Whether it's obvious that there's in 20 years' time there's going to be less macular degeneration, fewer people are going to be blind, they want to know what's happening. And what we're very bad at is actually showing those pathways as to how, if I give my entire medical record to the NHS, to give to Google, to give to Telefonica, to give to Yandex, who are going to improve the ability for your new Uber to be able to collect me from, you know, my home when I'm about to have a baby, because you know better than my wife when I'm going to have a baby. The point is that we just give it, and there is a trust issue that we have to overcome. If we overcome that, we've overcome one of the biggest problems.
Absolutely right, and in Telefonica we have gone through that debate, and we have decided that since the customer is the owner of the data, without no doubt that the customer is the owner of the data it generates in our network, we need to be able to make the customer monetize their data through our platform. We're thinking about something we call the fourth platform, but basically what it is to let you know what is the data that we have in our data centers, in our network, about you, and if you want to share your data with an insurance company, because you're a good driver, and you want to say that, you know, the data that is in Telefonica, it's good data that you think you can get the discount, you should be able to get the discount there. You should be able to monetize it. Furthermore, we are opening that, what we are thinking, to all the industry. So we would love Deutsche Telekom and Orange and AT&T and Verizon, all the industry, to make the same approach, and we have all a normalized way for you as a customer or as a company to use the data that you have with us, and we've been able to be a platform.
So we're kind of running out of time. So there is I want to talk about the next steps and what's happening in near future and further future, and give every one of you a chance to talk about it. As an investor, I know that there is a lot of new things and trends that are popping. If it's semantic understanding, if it's algorithmic transparency, and conversations, engines that will be supported. These are things that, if you can relate to that and explain how that is going to affect us in the future. And again, to the audience here, what would be, I'm a founder of a startup company in AI, or I'm an investor, where should I focus? What would be the main topics or domains? And if you want to add to that, what are the risks as well?
I think the dream for a telco is to provide seamless and ambient connectivity, and tomorrow we would like to provide ambient assistance. You could invoke an AI wherever you are, whatever the situation, and without thinking about it. That's the first thing. The second thing is probably to have something very personalized through the voice. Voice pattern is very interesting to trigger some specific scenario, and the video and the face recognition will become probably mainstream, so the privacy once again will be at the heart of the system. So I think ambient AI invocation, the ability to have your assistants wherever you are, very personalized, and the anticipation is the last point I would like to highlight. Real time is already too late, and the anticipation, the ability to make the prevision of what you would like, what kind of answer you would like to have will be critical.
So basically, you see a lot of influence of users and assistance of users in terms of utilizing data in order to achieve insights into their desires, needs, or advertisements and so on.
Absolutely, and as you said it very well, the ability for the end customer or the citizen to master her personal data, its personal data, is completely a prerequisite for the rest, I think.
You see.
Yeah, so as I mentioned, AI is touching everything, but if there's one area that I'm particularly excited about is the ability of AI for supporting conversational experience. I think the way I'm thinking about AI, AI typically stands for artificial intelligence, but I reasonably think about it as the opportunity for ambient intelligence. Meaning, how can we have intelligence that just works in a seamless way? And we can think about many technologies that we already got them to just work. We just take it for granted, or at least our kids take it for granted. Some of them are as simple as shifting the gear in your car, or punching a button on the elevator, which will just bring you elsewhere. So more and more conversation is the ultimate, is the universal interface. That's something that everybody understands. And the advances that we have in voice recognition and text-to-speech, by the way, we just made making some of these technologies available as on the cloud for everybody to use. So these advancements actually enable us to develop the ultimate user interface, which is just ask, talk about what you want, and then with additional technologies of understanding the dialogue, understanding the intent, and providing the right action, then this is a pretty significant technology. The way in which we will manifest some of these technologies is through the assistant, which now runs in some 500 million devices worldwide, and supporting by end of year some 30 languages. And as I mentioned, the next stage is to actually develop just applications using actions and whatnot. So, for example, some of you may have seen Google Duplex, technology that we developed in Israel and other places to actually achieve tasks over the phone using a dialogue. We just actually launched some other experience of announced in India the ability to read web pages to you using natural conversation, natural voice. So the ability to actually have natural conversation, natural voice is hugely important. Just this morning I had a chat with a fellow Googler who was in Japan talking doing some talking about technology with some elder people there, and he found out that many of them had a leapfrog of 20 years over technology they would not use. So if you think about a mobile, it's not a very natural technology. We struggle about how to make it functional. Many of the functions which are not on the first page are never used, and some people actually would never use it because it's so difficult. The conversation is a leapfrog over that, and having the ability to actually have this kind of interaction, I think, is hugely important, and is going to see many more applications.
Can you give an example why it's a leapfrog? Can you give an example why it's a leapfrog?
Sure, because once you can understand and interpret natural conversation, you can actually ask for anything that you need to be done as part of an application.
Yeah, but you know, I'm obviously understand contextual, right? So if you tell me put in some hot water for tea, I understand that I need to take the kettle, I need to pour water in it, not outside, I need to turn it on. All of that are things that today AI is not even capable of grasping.
Well, take some very daily operation. I mean, one of the popular actions are, play me some jazz, and which just gets your Google Home or other devices just play jazz or play me John Coltrane, rather than going to an app, selecting the app, going to select the right. I mean, it replaces all the sequence of works. Now think about something more like, add this meeting to my calendar. It's it's much easier than opening an app, going to doing, all these clicks, which are easier for us now because we're doing it all day, are not accessible for everybody. So if you think about many of the actions that we want, and there are endless of other actions that you can actually have over voice, that you just don't have the user, the real estate on your screen to actually have them.
So you envision the world as a platform that will provide these services. So that's pretty much the, so I mean, again, not discriminating, it can be any one of the companies here. Sure.
So yeah, so think about, when you think about artificial intelligence, quite often we take as a proxy, suppose you had somebody a trusted friend that you could ask them to help you with whatever you need. And you just tell them what you need in the most natural way and they just get it and just do it for you. That's kind of an ultimate goal. So the artificial intelligence and ambient intelligence are getting us closer to that vision. And of course, they're doing it in a very specific domains and doing it in stages, etc. But that's an ultimate goal that you can actually help people get things done on their behalf in a very simple way.
Well, thank you. And Jack, you want to say what mountains the technology needs to climb?
I think healthcare is the ultimate form application of AI, of course I would. Who here in the audience has ever had a loved one where the doctor has said, I'm sorry, there's nothing more we can do? Who here in the audience is getting older? Oh, come on. You're all getting older. So
look, I'm not raising my hand.
You're all great candidates for the future of AI, and I think that we're utterly going to transform the way in which we conduct trials. I think artificial intelligence is going to understand molecular profiling of your cell types, of your tumors, of your omics, and be able to much better predict than people in normal drug discovery how it is that you should be treated. We'll be able to test that rigorously and understand what's going to work for who in what combination, in what order, in a way that is really not doable today in our current ridiculously expensive way of developing drugs. So that's where I see the biggest thing in AI. And I actually look forward to having more time to have human conversations with my patients, funnily enough, not to be replaced. But I know the AI will be better than me, so my patients will probably go to my Google enhanced clone, which I'm thoroughly looking forward to.
Thank you. Arkady, I know you're stressed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, go ahead.
Should. When asked about the future of AI, I always want to say that there will be no AI. There will be nothing in this. We will be not discussing AI in 100 years from now, because it will be so ubiquitous. It will be everywhere. Imagine this panel 100 years ago. We would have been discussing the electricity, and now electricity is in the lens, in the screen, microphone. Who cares? Even the cat, yes. So is it dangerous? How careful we should be with dealing with electricity? The same will be on the panel about AI in maybe 10 years. Nobody would care. It will be everywhere. Although the miracles are happening every day. We launched a taxi which is completely driverless last week. A year ago I couldn't imagine that we have a taxi service, we have driverless technology, but I couldn't imagine that it would really become a reality. When you press a button, a taxi cab comes, no driver, you see it, you go somewhere, you leave the taxi, it goes. But miracles are happening, but it will be everywhere, we will stop discussing it.
I think that this is great news, and because I'm really tired of hearing about AI. Yeah, you want to give your
30 seconds. There are many words that when we come to these conferences, they become fashion and after they die. AI is not going to be one of them. We are not touching the surface of what we can do. Because whenever your brain needs to make a decision, there is a room for AI to help you on that decision. Being who do you want to marry, what health treatment you want, being what you want to invest your money. And to everything that we do with our brains on every day. We are not there. So if you want to make money, if you're here in a startup and you want to make money, I would say two things. One thing is Today, there are not enough data scientists in the world to solve all the problems that we're talking about. So, get the best data science, get the best, somebody knows about an industry with a problem, and guarantee you're going to make money, first. Second, the best, what nobody has invented, and I know Google and Microsoft and Amazon are all working, is how can we not need so many data scientists? If you want to replace Google or Amazon or Microsoft, not on that task, you're going to be the next Google.
Well, thank you very much, everyone. I want to thank our panel.
Yes,
I think we learned a
great
lot. It was
panel.
very interesting.
So interesting.